Get your calendars out. February 17th, February 18th, live trading, San Diego. We got the Lowe's Coronado. I mean, what else would you want? This event is limited to 50 people. Look at your calendar, clear it, make sure you show up. If you want to be a rebel, this is the place to be. You got to sign up for it now. Giddy up, baby.
That is not a clapper. I brought the clapper, Pete, but it's sitting over there on the other side of the room. And I didn't have time to jump up and get it. I thought Jared might panic.
Well, you got the light on at least so that we can do a full, it's right out of Criminal Minds or something like that. We can get you all kinds of questions. Where were you, sir? About 7 o'clock last night.
Well, it turns out I need 2 lights, not just one. So I'm doing the best I can.
Good Lord.
Welcome to the Rebel's Edge. Yesterday, Mark Lopresti and Pete brought you the Rebel's Edge. It was entertaining, Pete. I thought it was very good. Although our buddy still needs to, when he hears the bell, cut it off.
Yeah, he tends to have a lot to say. You know, those lawyers are like that. The longer they talk, the more they can charge. So he doesn't seem to understand that, you know what? That don't work here, big boy.
He watches all these episodes, so he's listening right now.
Well, he's listening. He's seeing it. I'm just letting him know.
Well, folks, we only bore you with 1 minute of macro because there's really not a lot you can do with macro BS. So we try to keep it to a minimum. And today, my side of the macro minute, my 30 seconds are going to be Americans are leaning a lot more heavily on their credit cards. Pete's been saying it for a while, but it's fine if you pay it off every month. But now 46% of Americans are carrying debt from month to month. So that means they're financing at over 26%, Pete.
It's brutal, John. And then if you add into the fact that, and the Fed, by the way, is raising rates, which that all of a sudden starts to kick into that as well. Credit card balances are up 15%. People are in debt, and that number is going to be brutal. It's, you know what? It does not end up really very well for folks, unfortunately. We've seen this play out before, and unfortunately, I think people have lost track once again, and that credit card debt will be a huge issue at some point in time. That's it for macro. Be done. I had some clown actually say, Pete, I really dig the macro, and I'm like, well, good luck. Then you got to the wrong spot.
Yep. There's lots of places you can go and listen to it. Yep. We're going to give you trades like this one.
Yep.
WWE. The WWE World Wrestling Entertainment was up huge in the pre-market, Pete. There were a couple tweets that said that they were selling to Saudi Arabia, the whole company, for who knows, like $8 billion or some such thing. We have had no comment from either side, but it does point up what Pete says all the time about discipline. Take those profits when you can, not when you have to.
Well, John, there are times where you've got to get, anyway, that's a little Macho Man for you. But I got to tell you, the reality is this. This is a company that did extremely well last year, which you can't say that about a whole heck of a lot of companies, right? No. And who do they compete with? Well, I decided to use Live Nation. So you take a look at what Live Nation did last year, not too good, down about 37%. And then you look at what WWE did last year, up about 70%. You get the idea. You can understand why. McMahon came back. His daughter has walked away. There's a lot going on within the family there. So the idea of maybe something going on with Saudi Arabia makes a heck of a lot of sense. It's a strong possibility. You've got to be smart about this whole trade, but free cash flow, these guys have it all, John. When you look at everything that goes into WWE, including a pretty interesting short interest that they've got, you can understand why we had that early morning push to $97 before it started to pull back to where it is now, right around 88. But will this happen? It's a heck of a possibility of that happening for sure.
It was $70, folks, last Thursday
Yep.
when Pete and I were talking about it. And I went on Fox on Friday and said, here's what we think. We think he came back to sell it. Vince McMahon, that is. Pete and I are friendly with Shane McMahon. I haven't heard a word from him, Pete. So this is not any kind of inside stuff at all. But it's just, you know, I know that family, if they could get the right price, yeah, they'd walk away. But I bet some of them will stick around to help run it because I don't really see Saudi Arabia being that group.
No.
All right. Let's talk, Pete, a little bit about AXNX. Another case of my dyslexia hitting me again. This one was up, global medical technology company. And just as Jared has put on our screens there, they've got a little something for your backside. And people like what they've got, apparently, Pete.
Yeah, they got a great balance sheet on top of everything else, John. This is a good free cash flow company. They've got about $300 million sitting there on the positive side between the debt and what they've got for cash. Strong revenue. You've got to like that. They hit some record levels. So there's a lot of reasons to like this company. They don't make a lot of money yet, but there are certain companies that you give a little bit of time, right? I mean, and I think when you get into the med tech field, you get the biotech field, you understand because there's a lot of different elements that go into this thing, and they do take some time. And obviously, they've got to go through processes and everything else. So one of the reasons that I really like that field is there are possibilities out there that absolutely put a lot of money into their pockets. I think this is one of those companies that makes a lot of sense why it's moving the way it is today.
Yeah. And what I'd say also, Pete, is you do your walk in the morning and you do an inspirational video each day. I do somewhat the same thing, except I'm talking about stocks that we're trading and things like that. This is one of them. And you could have been in this stock at $59 because take a look at the range on the stock, folks. AXNX, Axonics. This one was $59. Traded as high today as 64. If that ain't reason enough to be checking out these videos and watching these Rebels Edge shows, I don't know what is, Pete, between that and WWE. Yeah. All right, let's talk for a sec about CVLT. This is data protection, and the stock was up big today because basically the CEO says as a result, he said, I'm sorry, it's down big today. They saw a pullback, Pete, in orders in December, and we're hearing that a lot from tech companies, in particular, tech companies where you can say, I need it, but I don't need it right now. I'm going to put off that purchase.
Yeah, it's the economic, the uncertainty that people have right now. And obviously a lot of that, we're going to get some answers, John. Obviously, we're going to get some numbers tomorrow. We're going to kick off earnings season essentially on Friday. So there's a lot of different catalysts out there right now. But, software and products, the revenue, that was down 9% year over year. That's a bit of a problem. You look at the PE, it's extremely high, if there even is much in the form of E. So there are some issues that these guys have. I like this name, but I think you got to stay away from it. I think you've got to wait until there's a little bit more certainty here because there is room below still. And this is a very interesting company. They're in the right spot. I mean, data protection is obviously something we talk about, those types of things all the time, but they got to prove that they can make money consistently, John, and grow. And right now, people are sort of stepping back, so the growth is not there.
Yeah, I would say, Pete, if you can buy it in that October low, which you hit this morning, by the way, was about 53 something. If you can buy it at that level, I think you've got a pretty good buy. But could it trade down to 50 or 51? Yeah. So one of the things I'd be looking at is on any whooshes lower, I'd be looking at selling puts. But that's just me. That's not advice. All right. How about Dutch Brothers, Pete? This is a coffee chain that, it imploded last year. And one of the reasons it imploded didn't make sense to me or you. And that was that they said, you know what? The price of cream went up so much that we're not making as much. What? How much cream are you putting in these? I mean, I know Starbucks basically creates a milkshake for you.
What a joke that is.
I don't think Dutch Brothers does.
Excuses are like, what, everybody's got one. So it's just crazy, John. That was nuts. And the fact that they're trying to absolutely explode with their businesses, right? But the problem is their free cash flow, that's a big negative. It's down. You know, they're losing like 110 million bucks a year right now. That's a bit of a problem. Their debt to cash is about $500 million. That's a bit of a problem. There's a huge short interest here, anywhere between 14 and 20%. That seems to be a problem. It was a $44 stock a year ago. It hit 66 in the middle part of the year and then dropped all the way down. Basically today, it's really starting to move. It's up to 34 or 35. But give that a little bit of thought as well. Store sales, that's part of the problem as well. You look at the PE, if there is any E, the last time I think they might have made 3 cents, John, might have. So this is a company where they're trying to expand really, really rapidly, but they're not really proving to us that they can make money consistently. So until that comes, I think this is one of those names where you look at it, you maybe like the product, but do you actually like the stock? I know a lot of people who have, and a lot of those guys that talked about it for a long period of time, well, they were talking about it when it was a heck of a lot higher than it is right now. This is a company that I think you can be very, very patient as you're waiting for this company to start making money.
I would absolutely agree with that. Be patient with this one. I got to believe, Pete, that the shorts are going to be lined up again right around where it is now, 35 to 38 bucks. I think they're going to be lined up, but time will tell. All right, let me give you an unusual today, Pete. Verizon, VZ. You guys know, if you've been watching our show, that unusual activity means we're seeing buyers of calls, which is bullish, or buyers of puts, which would be bearish. This is a buyer of calls, 9,400 of those calls. So if you're a stock trader, I guess you piggyback on this and you buy the stock. For Pete and me, what we do is we define our risk on entry by buying call options or call option spreads. This one's got a little bit of time. February 43 is the strike price they're buying, with the stock just beneath 42. So it's just out of the money. I like that. I like that I have a little more time. I don't have to hit that second trade, because when I buy an option, I load up and start selling another one right away if we're in the last week or 2 weeks of that option's life. This one's out till the third week in February. So I liked it. Verizon, I think more people are coming in and upgrading phones and so forth. We're about to get earnings from these companies, and I think they did well. That's why I bought it, Pete.
And I totally agree with you, John. This is one of those names that Morgan Stanley talked about as well. They like this company a lot. It's one of those performers that they're looking for to outperform a lot of the other stocks that people are talking about. So I've got Jumia Technology, John. Now, this one's kind of interesting, I think. You know, you can compare it. We always have these things where we say, well, it's the Amazon of this, or it's the Tesla of that, and all the rest of it, of these various countries. So e-commerce, West Africa, Amazon of Africa, right? So interesting to see, because this stock has been absolutely hammered. And we're talking about a stock that traded somewhere between $3 and 12.5 bucks. Today it's trading underneath $4. But we got a buyer of nearly 11,000 of the January 4 calls, 7 cents up to about 22 cents. If this thing can start to move at all to the upside, John, now it's a fairly short duration, but you've got a little bit of time with these options. They don't expire Friday, but it gives you a little bit of time for this to play out. Will it start to move to the upside? It far worse movement, and even though Amazon didn't have a great year either, when you look at this name, it got hammered even worse than Amazon. So it's something that maybe now is the time. And because it's a maybe, I'd much rather be in the options than the stock. Gives me a chance to vary a very inexpensive option for a great risk reward. So that's exactly what I'm playing with right now. I own these calls. I bought them as soon as we started to see some of that. 7 cents up to 22 cents. I think I got in right around 19 cents for these options, John.
Nice. Well, we both know this is one of Steve Weiss's favorites, but he liked it when it was significantly higher. I wish he would listen to us more, Pete, and trade the options, because this one is one you need that same patience we talked about earlier. I think you need patience in this one. But for a short-term trade like this, I'm right with you, Pete, especially for 20 cents. Why not?
Yep.
All right. What do you got as far as sports, Pete? Let's kick off with the NFL first.
Yeah, you and I are going to kick around. So there are 5 coaching positions right now that are available in the NFL. I think there's going to be quite a few more, but right now it's Carolina, Indianapolis, Denver, Houston, Arizona. Now there are others that are going to be coming up, I think, as well, and we're going to see how that all plays out. Sean McVay's one of these guys. He's talking about maybe walking away from the Rams, John. So there's a lot going on, and there will be availability. It seems like every year there's 6 or 7 coaching jobs that are going to be filled by somebody, and they do sort of work through a lot of the same names. I think Arizona's going to grab Sean Payton. Sean Payton is this guy that everybody likes him. Jim Fossil, Bill Parcells, those are the guys who got him going into the business. He became a head coach. He had an unbelievable success with New Orleans. He had a very short quarterback that he was using at New Orleans by the name of Drew Brees. Well, you go to Arizona, John, that quarterback's not that tall either. And that's part of the issue that a lot of people have with him, Kyler Murray. They say, well, he's a great athlete, but he's a little bit short. Well, this guy understands what to do with the guy who's around 5'10". So I think he's the right guy. I think for a lot of reasons, he could be taking over a franchise that's not as bad as it looks. They lost 9 of the last 10 games that they played this year, John. I mean, they finished with a 4-13 record. They were 1-9 in the final 10. Absolutely awful. But they've got the 3rd pick in the draft. They could probably trade down and get a couple of draft picks. And if I were them, and if I'm listening, if I'm talking to Sean Payton, I'd say, look, first of all, this is a great job for you. It's a great opportunity because the cupboard's not bare. But they do need some offensive linemen. They've got to protect the quarterback where all that money is. So I think the way they do that is trade down and take a couple of offensive linemen, which there are a bunch of them this year that are available in the draft that will probably be going in the 1st round. I think that would be a great decision by him. Give him a lot of an opportunity to have success right out of the gate. So that's where I'm going to put him right now, is with the Arizona Cardinals.
And I'm going to go, Pete, with your old friend, the guy who tried to lure you out to be the D coordinator out at, what was that, the University of San Diego?
Yes.
Before he went up to Stanford. That's, of course, Jim Harbaugh, folks. Jim and his brother have done great in both pro and college. His brother primarily just pro out there in Baltimore. And he's, got a franchise that every year it's a winning franchise. Jim has done fabulous at Michigan. But could he be lured away for Chucky money, Pete? Could he be lured away for $100 million plus? The owner of the Denver Broncos is one of the heirs of the Waltons, the Walmart family. So I think that even though the cupboard's bare, because it is, they can't draft anybody. They're going to be getting, way down in the draft because they traded away all their picks. We've talked about it a bunch on the show. Traded all their picks to Seattle in order to bring in the quarterback that has not worked out. But they do still have Walton money. And Sam Walton, one of the things he did was left his heirs with a lot of cash. So I think they could buy a lot of free agents, Pete. Now I understand there's a salary cap and so forth, but I think they'll be able to perhaps rejigger a couple contracts. The players will still get paid. There's another jump in the NFL TV money and all the other stuff because of these new deals that we've been talking about. So that'll be a little bit higher of a salary cap than it was. And I think that they'll be able to pick up a couple free agents, and that'll make all the difference in the world. Denver does look like one of those injured animals, but I don't think you put this one out of its misery. I think you build again, but you're going to have to do it with free agents.
And Jim Harbaugh knows what he's doing at the pro level, the college level, the lower college level. I mean, to your point, John, he would be the right guy. I know that he's been get attacked and wanted to be at Carolina. He didn't want to. Carolina wants to grab him. But I think that Denver job could be pretty interesting, and free agency is the way to do it because obviously they already gave away their draft picks last year and this year. So that's a major problem. Next up, John, we've got the portal. And I just thought we'd want to maybe update what's going on in college football. We like to call this free agency. So the portal or free agency that we're seeing right now, the number one team right now from a ranking perspective, where they've gotten the 4 and 5-star and 3-star guys is Florida State, believe it or not. They've done an unbelievable job, John. They are number 1 with the guys that they've picked up in the portal. You know who number 2 is? Your school. And I say your school because I know your daughter goes there, but Colorado. And Prime knows what he's doing. I mean, he has done a great job going into that portal. He's signed up 4 4-star recruits. He's got 6 3-star guys. They've done an amazing job too. They're ranked number 2. And then Auburn, with their new coach, Hugh Freeze, they've gone into the portal as well. And they've got 6 4-star guys. They've got 2 3-star guys. And they've gotten very aggressive. Now, that doesn't mean a whole lot yet, but maybe it will translate into a few more wins for some of these schools that a lot of us, quite frankly, are used to them being winners. Florida State, Auburn, go back a long ways now, but go back 15, 20 years ago, Colorado was a power back in the Big 12, John. As a matter of fact, they had to move out of the way Oklahoma because it was Colorado and Nebraska that were dominating for a while there. But Colorado has slipped significantly, and they got in the Pac-12, and they just haven't had the right mesh of coaches and so forth. But I will say this. When you look at the high school kids and the commits that have happened there, Oregon still dominates the Pac-12. They absolutely crushed it this past year. They had 16 4-star guys. They had 2 5-star guys. So Oregon still does rule. They got a lot of money there too, by the way, with Nike being right in their backyard. But that always helps for NIL, right? I mean, there's a lot of different things that go into this whole deal. But I was excited to see, John, that Colorado has done such a great job. I'm hoping for Coach Prime that he's able to convert all of these players that he's picking up into something good so that they can maybe have a little bit of a resurgence. But do you think that's going to be enough, or do they need more?
Well, he's, like you say, he's going to bring in people from the portal, Pete. He's going to bring in signings, which he's already done. And I think both of those are going to help this team. They wouldn't have been able to get these players were it not for a guy like Coach Prime. Deion Sanders is a magical guy. Still, like I said, the only guy who has hit a home run and a kick return for a touchdown in the same week. But his numbers go much deeper than that. But that's a pretty amazing stat. I think kids love this guy. I think that the rest of the Big Ten is not going to like playing this guy because there's no book on him, for what he did down there in Jackson State. There's no real book on what Deion does in certain situations like there is for virtually every other Big Ten coach. So I like his chances. I'm not saying they're going to win it all next year, not a little bit, Pete, but I do think it's going to be a lot more than the one win they had this year. And I think it'll be exciting football. So I'm really looking forward to Deion Sanders taking over as Coach Prime.
Just wait until ESPN decides to go to Colorado, John, for a big game, and how great that's going to be when the Wheels Up guys bring in you.
Yeah. And you.
And we show up as a pair, right? We show up and we start going through everything, and we kind of get hanging out with Big Prime. We got our necklaces and everything, I think that would be great. I'm looking forward to that right now. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I am too, Pete.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us, folks. We're both looking forward to winding up this week's Rebel Edge on Thursday, tomorrow. So join us at 1 p.m. tomorrow. I'll put up a 3 at 3 in just a couple hours. And until then, have a great day, everybody.